let's see. We talked about your childhood a little bit. How about when you met Grandma?
How about when I met her?
Yeah, how did you meet Grandma? I think you told me once before, but I can't remember the facts.
Well, she was with girls, about several girls. I don't know how many there were. I don't remember how many there were right now. But Grandma was one of them. And so that's how I met her, through my brother, because my brother was going with her friend.
Okay.
And so I met her like that. And I don't know how come, but she was going to part-time school the same as I was. Your mother took her out of school. And so she went to part-time school the same as I did. I can't remember now whether I ever picked her up and took her to school or brought her back home from school. I don't remember. Because I had a car from Goodnight from since I was about 17 years old.
Did you live close to her? Did you live close to her?
Well, no, she lived about, I'd say at least 4 miles. At least 4 miles from where I lived. I lived way up the south side, and she lived town close to Youngstown. She lived on Falls Avenue, and I lived way up in St. Louis Avenue.
Well, 4 miles was a big distance back then.
Yeah. Yeah, but from that time on, I used to go down and see if I could go out with her, you know. And I can't remember now whether I took her to a show a couple of times down in Youngstown. We had a show called the Keith Albee. It was one of the fancy shows in Youngstown at that time. It was 35 cents to get in, 35 cents downstairs, and I think it was 25 cents upstairs. And
it was a live show?
It was a movie. It was a movie, and then you got the movie, and then they had in them days they used to have what they called a newsreel. Same as like this here. You look on there and they show you what's going on, you know, on the news and everything like that. Well, they called it a newsreel at that time. And you saw a lot of this different things, you know. And then after that was all over, then there was a comedy would come on. They always had a comedy. And so after the comedy, then there was 5 acts of vaudeville.
Really?
Yeah, live vaudeville. And so we really enjoyed that, you know. Every weekend, that would be on a Saturday night. That was a Saturday night thing for us, you know. And then we'd take the streetcar from downtown, which I would say about a couple of miles, 2 or 3 miles from downtown, to where she lived. See, and we used to take, I think it was, going up her place was a bus, because the streetcar went different ways. The streetcar went clear out Market Street and Warren Avenue and Hillman Street, and then it went down Sherwood and over Glenwood and down Park and Falls. Park and Falls was the street that went down to Idora Park.
Okay.
And that's where the streetcar went clear down to Idora Park and had a loop down there and looped around and come back to Youngstown again. But where she lived, we had to go on a bus. The bus would take us up that way and drive up that way, you know, and close to her place and drop us off and that's in the corner. And we walked from the corner down to her house, which was close. Lots of times I used to walk home all the way from there, you know. But I went with her several times like that. But I just wasn't going steady with her, nothing like that thing. But every once in a while I'd go down and see her. So it was several years. Like we was about 17, and must have been around 20 or 21 years old, something like that. And I started going down there to see her again, you know. And well, the main thing was in them days is going to the show, the theater on Saturday night. That was the big thing. And then maybe sometimes we'd come out and sometimes we'd have a hot dog down there. You used to have a hot dog for 10 cents, you know. Hot dogs. Have something like that. Go home. But I wasn't making no money them days. I was only making about $1 a day delivering milk. I delivered milk from off of it back into the truck. See, in them days, we hopped back of the truck. The truck had a step on the back, and we hopped on that step. And the driver would drive down the street. When we got close to the house, he'd pull over like, then we'd jump off of the truck, you know, and start running, run up to the house and drop the milk off, pick up the empty bottles, run back, and he'd start up, and then we'd grab a hold of we had a thing back there. We just grabbed it, and it just threw us right back on the truck, and with the bottles and put them in a case. So we used to start out about 4 o'clock in the morning delivering milk. And, about 7 o'clock we'd be all through. We'd be back to the dairy.
Wow.
So lots of times we'd go back and watch them bottle milk. Well, mostly the chocolate milk. You stand there, you know, and the guy would stand around. Pretty soon he'd give a pint of chocolate milk and hand you a pint of chocolate milk and you drink it. So it was quite a while that I really started going steady with Grandma. And then after we started going steady, then from then on I was with her almost all the time.
Yeah.
And anytime I was out of work or something like that, I'd be down at her house. And on Saturdays, I'd take her down to the store and get groceries. She was keeping house for her dad. She was living with her dad because he was divorced from her mother. And I don't remember whether her mother wasn't living in Youngstown. Her mother was living in Gallion, Ohio at the time. And every so often she wanted to go down and see her mother. So we get in our car and we drive all the way to Gallion. We'd have to go down through Akron, Ohio, you know, that way, clear down to Gallion, Ohio. And we'd stay down there. We'd go down like on a Saturday. We'd leave on a Saturday around dinner time and get down there in the evening. We have our evening meal there at the house, and we'd stay overnight. And it wasn't down there. And then come back the next day on Sunday. But we done a lot of running around. We went swimming a lot. In them days, we used to have go to these farmers. You know, these farmers used to have these big springs and like a lake in the back of the yard, in their yard. Well, they charged us maybe 10 or 15 cents to go swimming. And they had a bathhouse there where we could change clothes and everything. And if we wanted to buy a hot dog or something else we could do that too. And we used to have a lot of fun there because we always went with several people, you know. And I had a mattress, one of these rubber mattresses, would blow up with air, and I threw that in the water, see? And then everybody would climb on it and get knocked off, you know, and like that. And we used to have a lot of fun like that in them days. In them days we had more fun than I think that they do today, because right now, go to a swimming pool, you'd have to be a regular swimming pool, you know, here. But in them days we swam right up, you know, in the creek. It wasn't a creek like, but it was in a lake that they would have, maybe a spring-fed lake, and he would have it dammed up, you know, to hold water back.
Yeah.
And they had a pretty good-sized farm there. They had picnic tables, like out in the pasture fields, you know, and stuff like that, where people could have their picnics on Sundays and holidays. So Grandma and I was going together for quite some time. And I had another car at that time. I bought another car. I forget what it was. I think it was a Plymouth. 4-cylinder Plymouth. They called them with overdrives in them days.
Hmm.
And so I bought this Plymouth, and her brother and his girlfriend, they wanted to get married. So where are you going to get married at? He said, well, we'll go to Newcastle and get married. So I drove them to Newcastle, and we found the minister down there, minister's house. We went to the minister's house, you know, knocked on the door, and he come to the door and says, what do you want? He says, well, they want to get married. Okay, come on in. So we went in the living room. B and I stood up for them, you know, while they got married. Then we went from there, we went back home again. And that was in the summertime. That was in maybe June or July, something like that.
Was that did they elope, or was it just a?
No, that's just the way that's why they got married. Huh. We had to go down to Newcastle. We had to go to the courthouse in Newcastle, get the marriage license. And then we went to the minister, and he married him, and he signed the marriage license that they was married. So about 6 months later, it was in December. Grandma and I was out. Them days they called beer gardens. They didn't call them saloons. It was called beer garden. Everybody was having a beer garden here and a beer garden there. You know, a lot of these confectionery stores turned into beer gardens. Well, you went in the beer garden there, and on one side they had a place with tables there. They served you beer, and you had free pretzels, all the pretzels you wanted to eat. And had a little orchestra, 2 or 3 piece band, and we used to dance on the dance floor. Well, this was in December, so we was dancing and finished dancing and come back to the table. Grandma looked at me and she says, are you going to marry me, or am I going to start going out with other men? Well, I had no intention of getting married or anything, you know, at that time. So when she said going out with other men, that was enough for me. So I says, well, will you marry me? She says, yes, I'll marry you. What have you been waiting on all this time? So I said, okay. So he's going to get married. Next day I went down to her house, and it was nice in December at that time. And that time we used to have swings on the front porch. You know, people had swings on the front porch. Her dad was sitting out front on the front porch on the swing. I was in the house with B. She says to me, go out and tell Dad that we're going to get married. I said, holy smokes. So I said, okay. I went out on the front porch and I said, hey Dad, B and I are going to get married. He said, you are? I said, yeah. Well, okay.
You were scared, weren't you?
Yeah, I sure was. Well, nevertheless, she set the date, December 22nd. It was on a Saturday. And before we got married, she says, well, I have to have some clothes. You know, she didn't have any marriage clothes. And I said, well, okay. I said, here, you think $10 would be enough? $10 to buy marriage clothes. She says, yeah, I think so. So I give her the $10. That night I come home and she had everything all boxed up, all the stuff that she bought. And she says, here's your change. Change out of $10 bill.
That's crazy.
And she had a dress, she had a new pair of shoes, she had a purse. That same dress that you see that she's got on right there. And I had the same suit that I got on there. That's when we got married in. So anyhow, we went to Newcastle the same way. It was in wintertime, see. It was the old snow, and it wasn't sticking on the road. It was kind of slushy, you know. So on the way over there, I pulled in the gas station to get some gas. The guy said to me, he said, you going over the mountains today? I said, I sure am. Yeah, I sure am. I'm going over the mountains today.
Yeah.
So we went down and got our marriage license, same as my brother-in-law did. And we went to the same minister's house. He was painting.
He was painting?
Yeah, he was painting inside the house.
Oh.
So he came out there, he had paint all over his clothes, you know, where he was painting. He says, what do you want? We want to get married. Okay, come on in. So we stood there, he had a fireplace there. We stood from the fireplace. He married us. And before I left, I took an envelope and I put $2 in the envelope. And I set it on the mantle for the minister. In them days, $2 is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So we left there and we went out. We left there to go home. And I bought a keg of beer. In them days, you could buy a keg of beer, you know. And I had the keg of beer down in the cellar, but I didn't have it in the tub with ice or anything like that. So my brother-in-law says, well, how do you get the beer out of that? Well, I said, well, you take this thing here. You know, it's a long thing that went down. You put it on top of here, and you were supposed to put the nut on it, and then give it a push, and it would go down in, and you could get the beer out just by turning the thing. You know, you get the beer out of it. So I said, you do it just like this. And I just touched that thing, and the old thing just popped out of there, and the beer was flying all over. Gee, when it was just flying all over. And we started laughing, and I started putting my hands on it, trying to stop it. You couldn't stop that beer coming out of there. And I got my suit all wet, you know, with beer and everything. But we had a heck of a good time laughing about it. Well, anyhow, I finally put the thing on anyhow, the way it was. And we drank the beer out of there anyhow. We still got the beer out of the keg that night and drank it. My brother, he cooked spaghetti for us that night, you know, for our dinner.
That was your brother Jim?
Yeah, my brother Jim. That's where we was, up at his house. And after we got married, he had a big house, so we rented a room off of him, you know, bedroom. So we stayed there, lived in this bedroom there, and I went to work from there. We still was working at the General Fireproofing. And would you know, 1 month after we was married, I was laid off. 1 month. So we didn't know what to do. We knew we couldn't stay there. So her dad was living by himself down in his house. He had a big place down there. So she says, well, we might as well move in with Dad. And that's what we did. We went down and moved in with her dad, and we lived there. And all of that first year that we was married, I had an awful time getting work. Things were kind of tight at that time.
It was about just after the crash, wasn't it?
Yeah.
1930?
Yeah, 1930. It was right after, and this was 1934. This was after the new president came in. This was after President, what the heck's his name?
Truman?
No, not Truman. This was before Truman. Oh, gee, Christmas. I can't think of the president's name. How about that?
I never learned him, so.
Well, anyway, he was the new president, and he was the one that started up the breweries, you know, making beer again.
Yeah.
Youngstown, they had a brewery company there, and they made beer. And so that started things rolling, you know, because these guys were buying trucks to haul beer. People started buying cars, and things was really moving. Things started really going. So, but that took me quite a while to I get a little bit of job here, a little bit of job there. Finally, I got a job driving truck for an advertising company. This advertising company done advertising like handbills. We passed out handbills, and it said Accurate Advertising Company. We took the handbills and put a rubber band on them and went up and put on doorknobs, so it wouldn't blow away. Then we got a big job with Kellogg's company, with Rice Krispies and
Frosted Flakes?
I don't remember
Not
it was
yet.
Frosted Flakes. It was some other kind. We had all these here little boxes of cereals, and we passed them out door to door. And I used to drive the truck, and I had about 5 or 6 guys or more, and they had big bags like in them days. Kids used to carry newspapers.
Yeah.
We'll have like a newspaper bag on our shoulder. Well, we had those big bags like that, and the guys we'd fill them up with these cereal, you know, we had. Well, we did pretty good around there, on the south side of Youngstown. Then we went to Steubenville. We were down to Steubenville. We were down there. We got down to Steubenville. Every time the guys went to go to a house, the people would get their hands in there and just empty the bags out. I'd fill the bag up, and first thing you know, he was empty. And I kept filling the bags up for him. And I used to go from where we was working. We had a big warehouse, and all the stuff was all stored up in the warehouse. I'd get so many boxes, you know, and put them back in the truck, and I'd come out and pass the cereal out. Well, that wasn't too bad, but how much did I make an hour? 25 cents an hour or something like that at that time, driving the truck. And but it was a little bit of money coming in, you know.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do too much with it. So finally, almost a year, fireproofing called me back to work again.
Great.
And I went back to work as a fireproofing, and I worked there for about 8 years straight. I worked there until the war started. The war broke out. When the war broke out, they shut down. They shut down because they was going to make airplane parts, all kinds of airplane parts. Well, I went there to see if I could get a job, you know, back again. And the guy says, yeah, he says, where you been? He says, we've been looking for you. He says, yeah, he says, you come in here, he says, you have to work 2 weeks, he says, for nothing, to learn how to do the job, then you start getting paid. I says, the heck with that, I ain't working for 2 weeks for nothing to get paid. So I went out and I went to school, night school, to learn how to weld. And I learned how to weld. And I went up to Warren, Ohio. They was building Army tanks at that time. And I went in there to get a job welding on Army tanks.
Yeah.
I got a job. I got a job there.
Welding was good, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a job there, and I started working. I was making good money. At that time, we was making about 90 cents an hour or something like that.
That's much better.
Yeah. And but we had 90 cents an hour for flat welding. If you just flat welding, it's all you got, 90 cents an hour. But if you could do vertical and overhead, you got about $1.10 an hour, something like that. Got more money, you know. So I learned how to do vertical and overhead with stainless steel. So they didn't pay me like they were supposed to. Well, after so many months, they had to give me back pay. They had to give me back pay because they wasn't paying me the money that they were supposed to pay me. So I got about close to $300-400 back pay. Well, that $300 or $400 back pay paid my lot off, you know, that I bought. I bought a lot on land contract, so much down, about $15 a month or something like that. Well, we paid the lot off. We paid about $300 or $400 for the lot.
Wow.
And so when they shut down, then I went to work for the pipe company, welding pipe. So I started welding pipe, and that was a bit different than this flat stuff. And of course, that was all stainless steel over there. This was different kind of welding. It was mild steel. And you were supposed to pass a test there, and after you passed the test, they were supposed to pay $1.15 an hour. Well, they wasn't paying me but $1.15 an hour after I passed my test. and one of the supervisors or somebody came in from across the street. We was in another building. I went up to him, and in them days, I could go across the street. I could go to any place and get a job, you know.
Yeah.
He was looking for welders in them days. I went up to him, and I says, hey, I passed my test a long time ago. I says, how come I'm not making the same money as these other guys are making? Well, he says, I don't know. I said, well, you better find out, because I'm going to quit if I don't get it. I was telling him I'm going to quit if I didn't get the job, so I didn't get my money. First thing I know, I got back wages there again. Another about $300-400 back wages.
Wow.
So they kept me on, and I worked there for quite some time. And that's when the war was on, see.
Mm-hmm.
And we made a lot of pipe, and all that pipe went across the water over to one of those countries over there where they had a lot of this oil. And
Like Saudi Arabia or something like that?
yeah, they went to Saudi Arabia. A lot went to Saudi Arabia. We made a lot of pipe, fabricated a lot of pipe for them.
Yeah.
So then it come time that they was going to start getting more men for the Army. So I got a card, report to the Armory up on Rayan Avenue, Youngstown, Ohio, such and such a day. So I told the foreman, I says, I have to go and report. I says, I got to go get examined to go to the Armory. And I didn't know whether I was going to go or not, because what do we have? I don't remember what. Yeah, I think Marlene was born at that time. I had 3 kids.
How old were you?
Oh, I must have been about 35 or somewhere around there.
Wow.
And I went up there, and I got in line, same as everybody else. They give us our first examination. The next day, I got a card in the mail, deferred 6 months, because I was working on the A-bomb and I didn't know it.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know it. They said, this is a secret project. It was a great big long pipe. It must have been about 12 or 14 inches around, and we was welding these 4-inch nozzles on the pipe. And one welder welded on one side, and I welded on the other side. 2 of us welded on this 4-inch nozzle. I welded one side, and he welded the other side. He'd start here, and I'd start over here, and I'd go down this way, and he'd come around this way. And we run into each other's weld, you know.
Uh-huh.
After the weld was finished, we cleaned it all up, and we'd have to put our stamp on it, because each one of us had a stamp, because we was all certified.
Huh.
So they came there. They wanted some more certified welders from our shop to go to Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Oak Ridge, Tennessee is where they was putting all this stuff together.
I see.
And I said, oh, geez, I hope they don't call me. I hope they don't call me. I want to go down Oak Ridge, Tennessee. So they called my buddy and about 3 or 4 other guys. They had to go to Oak Ridge, Tennessee and weld. So while they was gone, I still stayed there in Warren, Ohio.
Did you live in Warren?
I lived in Austintown at that time, and where we built the house.
Yeah.
Because I started building that house then, and we didn't move in that house until December that year. Because her mother she was a son of a gun. She didn't like the kids. She didn't like the kids because they was girls. She didn't like girls. So B says, well, we're going to have to get out. We can't stay here. She just keeps hollering at the kids all the time.
Yeah. You had all 3 kids by then, didn't you?
Yeah. So I says, well, the house isn't finished. I says, I got it closed in. I got a furnace in there. I had a well drilled, and the well was no good.
Mm.
And I had a hot water. I put a hot water tank in, a galvanized hot water tank, and for a heater, it was a kerosene heater.
Huh.
You lit the kerosene, you know, to keep the hot water up.
Oh, I see.
And so she could wash clothes. And we didn't have no sewer out front. So whenever we got through washing clothes, I had to carry that water outside, dump it outside. So we moved in, but I had to insulate it, all the insulation all around, you know, to keep it warm.
Yeah.
Because everybody figured that we were going to freeze in there. I had no siding on the outside, but I had this here, like a weatherboard. Big plasterboard sheets out there, and it was supposed to be weatherproof. So we moved in a place.
And you had no walls inside the house either, right?
No walls. You could walk from one place to the other, just right through the 2x4s. You could look up this way, and you could see the roof rafters going up. So we moved in there, and then I started a little bit at a time. Every night I come home from work, I put the sheetings on the walls, you know. The sheetings on the walls. Put the sheetings, I don't know how I did it. It was 4x8 sheets. And I picked them up and called up the ladder. I set it up against the ceiling and I held up my head. And I watched where the tube of the joist was. I started having a couple of nails here, a couple of nails there, and a couple of nails there, and a couple of nails there. And then I'd let go of it and I'd finish nailing it, up there. That's how I did it. So we was figuring out the time to put plaster the house. Well, I didn't have the money to plaster the house, so I thought, well, I'll get this here tape, that paper tape for the cracks, you know. And you had plaster you would mix up and fill it all in, you know, and get it all smoothened up. And take sandpaper it all off. After I got all sandpapered off and everything, went down bought paint, just painted the walls. And that's how we got the place painted.
Did you have power then too? Electricity?
Yeah, we had electricity, and had electricity in before I even had that thing on. And the neighbor, Mark's father-in-law, was a carpenter. So I had him come over and build cupboards in the kitchen. He built steps to go up, and steps to go down the cellar, steps to go upstairs. And then he put a lot of flooring in upstairs, you know, nailed the flooring in. So we was coming along pretty good. And every night I come home from work, and actually I worked on the house. So we finally got it livable and everything. And then I put strips up in the bedroom, and I put them little squares up there.
Squares?
It was like insulation, in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And there's like little squares with holes in. And I put them all over the ceiling up in the bedrooms upstairs. And I built a closet out in our bedroom because the ceiling went this way. So I come back out this way about 2 or 3 feet, I forget what it was now. And I come clear across and made it 4 foot long. And it was longer than that on the inside, but where the door was, because I had sliding doors, you know. And so we could get back in there. And then I varnished the doors and everything. I worked my head off. Bee did too, she worked too. So, at that time, you got television. And I bought a television from a friend of mine. It was a nice television. And we got good reception out there. So I wanted to sand the floors. I put the new floors all down. And I wanted to sand them with a sander. So I sanded it with a sanding machine. Boy, they looked nice. And I got too close to the television wires. They got in there and I just ripped them back up. And I had to stop what I was doing. I had to fix the wires back on the television. So the kids and B could watch the television.
Yeah. It was black and white?
Yeah, it was all black and white. Then after I got the floor sanded real good, I got that real good varnish that they used on the gym floors. And I put that varnish all over. I put 2 real good coats, heavy coats of that varnish all over those floors. Man, they look beautiful. Well, the wood was green when I put it together, and the doggone things, it started drying up and shrinking up and had cracks in it about like that. You know, were opened up. What am I going to do now? Well, there's only one thing to do. I had to buy some kind of plastic wood or something like, and it was like a putty. And like, it was wood, they called it plastic wood.
Like a crayon, just kind of cram it in there or something?
Yeah, I just used a putty knife and filled it in.
Huh.
Filled the cracks all in. Then I went all over it with the varnish again.
Yeah.
And it looked beautiful, it really did.
Right.
Because it was all different colors. It was pine, you know.
Uh-huh.
It really looked good. Well, we didn't put any rugs down then for quite a while. And I was drawing down pretty good money at the time, because I was working for the union at that time, see?
Yeah.
We was making $1.25 an hour at that time. Man, that was money at that time. $1.25 an hour, and time and a half for overtime. And we was getting a lot of overtime because in them days, this place was going, that place was going, and they had us pipe fitters all over, you know, every place. So we did real good. First thing, $1.50, and it went up to $1.75, $2 an hour, $2.25 an hour. Just kept going up like that every year. It kept going up so much an hour, you know. And I was making darn good money. I was bringing good money home at that time. That time, like I said, everything was cheap. Wages was cheap, but so was everything else. Gasoline was probably about 16, 17 cents a gallon at that time. So we did pretty good. We got the house built nice and got it nice and warm. Then they come down the street was a gas line. I put the gas line in. Come down with the water line, put the water line in. And the only thing was the sewers. I had to go get a contractor. I got a hold of a contractor to come over and put the sewer in. So they put the sewer in for us. I had everybody pay so much money, you know, to tie into the sewer. So we could pay it, you know, pay it off. And that's how we paid the sewer off. We paid the water off, something like that too. Everybody paid so much money. But the gas, we didn't have to pay anything. They put the gas line in, and all we had to do was go out and hook onto it. It was already had a valve out there. Now we had to put a dresser coupling in with a nipple and a dresser coupling, and run the pipe from there and into the house. And so I run the pipe into the house and put the gas line in, and I bought a gas furnace. I got rid of the coal furnace. I sold the coal furnace for about $100, and so I bought this gas furnace for about $300 or $400. And then they come in, they put the old runners in there, you know, for the gas or the heat to go, you know, upstairs and everything like that. So it took us a long time. It took us a heck of a long time. But we finally got it. A little at a time.
Weren't you afraid of gas a little bit?
Gas?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't afraid of it. Then I bought a gas hot water tank to put that in. Well, I was working with the pipe fitters, you know, at the time, and I knew what to do. I knew how to do all that stuff, see?
Yeah.
So I put that all in. But before they would turn the gas on your house or put the meter on, they come out and test it. Test the line, see if there was any leaks.
Yeah.
If there were leaks. If there's no leaks, then they put the meter on and turn the gas on, and they had gas for the furnace. We didn't have gas for the stove upstairs. We had the electric stove.
How did they test it for leaks?
Put air in it. Pump it up with air with so many pounds, 15, 20 pounds of air.
Yeah.
And then you take a brush with soap on it and soap bubbles on it to see if they have any leaks any place.
I see.
So that's how he tested it.
That's neat.
Yeah, it was really something. We had this big lot in the back, but I needed dirt. And every time somebody had some dirt, I'd get the wheelbarrow and go over to their house and put the wheelbarrow full of dirt and wheel it across the street and dump it. Go back, get another wheelbarrow full of dirt and dump it. And sometimes somebody said that I was selling dirt down here, $2 or $3 a load. So I went down and saw the guy, and I had, I don't know how many loads of dirt I had brought up. So I could fill up, around the house, and I wanted to slope it away, see? And I had it all sloped away so the water would go away.
Right.
So
you paid $2 a load for that?
Yeah. In them days,
Sounds expensive.
Yeah. I'll say it was worth it. He'd dump it where I told him to dump it, and then I had to take it from there and scatter it around.
Oh, you had a truck then, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant a wheelbarrow load.
Oh, no, I'm talking about truckloads.
Okay.
Truckloads, a dump truck. Those big dump trucks. Yeah, I had quite a time, but we finally got the house built. Comfortable. And,
what was the neatest thing that you and Grandma did?
huh?
What was the neatest thing that you and Grandma did?
The neatest thing?
Yeah, the funnest thing. Like I know you went to Hawaii, you went to Disneyland.
Well, yeah, we started traveling then after we got the house built. And we had money. And every time somebody said, let's go someplace, I said, yeah, where are you going? Such and such a place. How much is it going to cost us? So much money. I said, okay. And I'm going to write out a check, and away we would go. She took care of the money. I brought the checks home to her, and she took care of the money. At first, we had a used car. It was always used cars in them days. And then I bought it was all Model A Fords. The Model A Ford was a good car. So then I bought a brand new Ford, 1937. I bought my first new car. And it was a Ford. I paid $525 for it.
Cash?
The car. No, I didn't pay cash. I give them $250 down and $25 a month for the car. And I got it paid off. Didn't even have a heater in it. Didn't have no radio in it. So I went down and I bought a heater for it. $19.95 for a heater. It was a gasoline heater. It fit right in the center of the car. And went out and he run a line into the carburetor. It was a place that they hooked it up in a carburetor. And I got the gas from the carburetor. You came back and you turn the switch on, and the little thing in there got hot, just like a spark plug.
Yeah.
It would get hot. Boy, did that throw you all hot air. And they didn't have fans in a car that day, you turn the fan on to defrost. So we had to buy one of the little fans, a little rubber-bladed fan about this big, you screwed it on the steering wheel. And you could turn it wherever you wanted, put it on the windshield, and it cleaned the windshield off. So, but it had rubber blades in it, like if anybody stuck their finger in it, they wouldn't get hurt.
Yeah.
So, I don't think I ever put a radio in that car. I know I didn't. I never put a radio in it.
Could you lock that car up, or was it kind of an open-air kind of car?
No, it was a sedan.
Okay.
It was a two-door sedan. A two-door, black Ford two-door sedan.
Front and back seat?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it had the front and back seat in it. So, and I was working at the Fireproof at the time when I bought that 37. Back at the Fireproof again. For some reason or other, I don't know how they come back to the Fireproof. Well, I wasn't working too good. That was the trouble at the time, and I didn't know, you could go back to the union hall and they send you out from one job to another.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. When I finished this job, I said, well, all finished here. So I went back home. I thought, there's no place to go. So I went back to the fireproof and got a job. And they hired me back up there, but I was making better money at that time. And I was getting good bonus too. They was giving me 50% bonus.
Wow.
Regardless of what I worked on, I got 50% bonus.
Why did you get a bonus? Just for accurate work?
You made so many pieces.
Okay.
You turned so many pieces out, of what you was working on, you get a bonus. And being a welder, I started welding up there too. I was welding. And I welded on what they call the black stock. That was where we made all these here cabinets, filing cabinets.
Yeah.
And I had naturally I had a hood on. In them days, we had a different kind of a rod. You didn't, you just put it on there and just like it was burning, and it welded the metal together. It fused the metal together.
Sure.
And we was really working fast. About 2:30 in the afternoon, we had our bonus made. We had a 55% bonus made.
Wow.
We was all finished. Every day we'd finish early. So then I went back up to the union hall and they said, well, where you been? I said, well, I've been working the fireproof. I know you had a job. We've been looking for you. So I went back to work with them then. And from then on I stayed right there with the union, And I knew you going from one job to another job, one job to another job. So I
much better pay too, right?
Oh yeah, it was good pay there. Yeah, and like I told you, that every year we get a raise, 25-cent raise, 25-cent raise, and we was doing good. And then there was so much work there all the time that we worked 6, sometimes 7 days a week.
Wow. Double
time on Sundays. So we did good. We did very good. And then I started, my next car was a, oh boy. I can't remember what my next car was. I don't know if it was still a brand new one or what it was. And Lee was, she was driving at the time. And I only had one car.
Mm-hmm.
And when Judy graduated, that's when I bought the second car.
Like in the 50s then, right?
Yeah.
54, 56?
Because Judy graduated. And Jack Dixon was supposed to get her a job at the telephone company. Well, she put her application in the telephone company, and they told her that you have to have a car, to get back and forth to work.
Uh-huh.
So I went out and bought another used Ford. I think, what the heck car did I have? I don't remember what I had the Plymouth. I think I had a brand new Plymouth at that time. And I bought this Ford for Judy to drive. She put an application in, they wouldn't hire her because her name was Savino. See, they didn't want Italians in there. They wanted all other people in there, but no Italians.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Like Germans and...
Yeah, so she never got a job down there.
Huh.
So then I started using the car to go back and forth to work, and I gave Bea the good car. So she drove the good car then.
Yeah.
From there on, she always had the new car, the good car to drive.
Yeah.
And I always drove the older car.
That's the way it should be.
And I had to plant that whole thing in grass, get the grass to grow.
So you could mow it later, right?
I didn't even have a mower. Mark had a mower with a gasoline mower, small mower, was a real type. And I used to go over and borrow his mower to mow my grass. So finally I went down Sears Roebuck's one day and I bought a mower down Sears Roebuck's. And from then on, I had my own mower.
Well, I thought I saw a picture of you one time using a push mower back there.
I did.
That must have been a job.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure was a job. But in them days, we didn't mind it, you know. I was young, strong.
Yeah.
I didn't mind all that type of work, stuff
Yeah.
that we did.
Sure.
So,
It's a big yard.
yeah, it was a big yard. I raked that thing all the way back, you know. Fixed it all up and bought seed, grass seed, scattered the grass seed on there, put lime on there, fertilizer on it, watered it, and away it went. It had a real beautiful yard at that time, you know. That grass was really nice. Every time we mowed, it looked like a golf course back in there.
How about those 2 apple trees? Did you plant those, or were they there
I
already?
know, I planted those apple trees. I bought them. They're supposed to be small trees, you know. It was a special tree.
So you could reach it?
Yeah, small trees. But it got pretty good size.
It did. We used to climb them.
Yeah. Yeah, they got pretty good size. Oh, we got pretty good apples from, but the apples weren't as good as I thought they was going to be.
They were kind of small too, weren't they?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't too small. Some of them was pretty good size.
Okay.
I forget. I think I had 2 different kinds. I think I had one was yellow apple and one was a red apple. Yeah, we had the trees for quite a few years before. Then what I did, you know, these here worms, how they used to make those great big tents around on a branch.
Oh yeah, silkworms.
Yeah. So I thought, I'm going to burn them son of a guns out. Yes. I burned them out and I killed the tree. I killed the tree.
But the whole tree burned down, or just the
No, it's
shock?
just the shock from that burning that branch out there, where those silkworms were.
Yeah.
It killed the whole tree.
Wow.
So then I had to cut the tree down and get it out of there.
That was an apple tree?
It was an apple tree, yeah.
Okay.
It was a red apple tree. But I didn't get silkworms on the other branches, nothing like that. And I planted a bunch of pine trees, little tiny pine trees.
Yeah.
Just planted them in a little area. They started growing. He said, you better get them out of there. We choke each other out. Okay, so I took them down and I planted them about halfway down the yard, you know, across. And they started growing down there, but they wasn't growing fast enough. So I thought, well, I'm going to transplant them again. I took them from there and I took them clear down at the end of the yard. You know where I planted them down there?
Yeah.
I planted them 10 foot apart. I should have planted them 20 foot apart.
Yeah, they were big.
They just grew into each other. Just made a hedge clear across there. And they're big down there. But she doesn't really take care of the yard like she should. She don't do it. She has to hire it done. She has one of her nephews or somebody comes over to do it, you know.
But the girl that lives there now?
Yeah. And
did you ever go visit her lately?
well, I would see her once in a while when I went up there.
Mm-hmm.
But I never went over to the house, you know, to talk to her in the house or something like that. Maybe I'd see her come in to get lunch, you know, I might holler at her and something like that. No, I never went back in. I never was in the house. So after we left the house, I went back one time. She called me in there. They didn't know how to operate that electric stove that we had in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and I didn't know how to do it. So I called B and she showed them how to operate the stove.
Yeah.
See, because I had all new cupboards put in again. And I put the new dishwasher in, a garbage disposal in. I really had it all fixed up real nice. And she didn't want it painted. She wanted it all varnished. No handles on the doors. So the doors were beveled.
Okay.
So you reach up there and grab the bevel and pull the door open. Yeah, it was up there Christmas time, December. Painting them, varnishing them cupboards. Get them cupboards varnished. The guys want to know where I was at. How come I was up the Christmas tree lot selling Christmas trees? I'm home varnishing my cupboards up. They looked nice when I had them all varnished too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of work in that place. Now she's got it, and she's put money into it too. She tore all the carpeting out, and put all new carpeting in. She had the tree out front, the big trees. I planted those trees, all those trees.
Every one of those?
No, none of those trees over there. That was just bare.
Wow.
And I put that one big tree in the front of the house with those great big leaves.
Yeah.
And that was, I didn't know it, but that was a flowering tree.
Huh.
They got beautiful flowers on that tree. And I didn't know it. I looked up like that, whoa, he smokes up those beautiful flowers on that tree. I put two of those in the front, and then I put two maples on the side.
Right, I remember
Now
that.
that's all grown up, and now it shields the house from the sun and from the east. And when the sun goes around that way, it shields the sun that way, and the sun goes around to the back, on the back side. So, yeah, she's all set. She just loves that place.
Yeah.
She calls it her dollhouse. And I was stupid forever dropping $1,000 off of the price, but I thought I was doing something, I did something. I just lost $1,000 for nothing.
Yeah. What year was that again that you moved out? 72?
No, we moved out of there in
82.
79.
Oh, okay.
78 or 79. It was 79. Because we come down to Florida in 79, and all the stuff that I had, I sold everything. Your dad and mother bought the biggest part of it. They bought the tractor and all the furniture. Nick and his wife, what the heck's her name?
Marianne?
Marianne. They got the couch and they had the television. I just had that television fixed. It cost me $65, but the insurance company paid the rest because the guy told them that the lightning hit it. And they put a new tube in it. It was just like brand new.